So I organize all of that by gathering body camera, witness statements, evidence. Most of the agencies will keep the evidence at their headquarters or their evidence wherever they store it at. When it comes time for trial is when I come into play and I start gathering that. So when we enter trial, the ADA will basically be like, hey, I need all of this stuff, go get this for me. So I go to that agency, I sign out the evidence, I bring it to our headquarters, and we have our own evidence room where we store all of our evidence for that trial. Once that is done and finished with, I take it back to the agency, and what the agency does from there, whether they release it, destroy it, whatever it may be.
The next question is, what strategies do investigators in the district attorney's office use to verify the facts, follow up on leads, and fill any investigative gaps to strengthen the case?
Hi, my name is Brady Foreman. I'm an investigator for the Major Crimes Unit. As far as this question is concerned, it will apply to all of our units. We get a copy of the report, like you said, and we read through it. We start making what I call as my grocery list. What am I missing? What do they have? What do they not have? What do I need more of? And a lot of it would be witness statements, video. They may mention this in the report, but when I get my evidence from their evidence unit, it may not be in evidence. So I have to go track down this officer and ask him, where is this, and this, and I'm missing. If I have questions about the report, why did he not do something, or why did he do something, I will reach out to him and ask him. There's a lot of times they will do things, but it's not necessarily documented in the report, but it doesn't mean it wasn't done. So just a conversation with the officer clears up a lot of questions for us. As far as the follow-up on leads, investigative gaps, after talking to the officer, we just reach out to witnesses. We start interviewing witnesses, read their statements. A lot of witness statements are very, not detailed, vague. So we'll reach out to them and say, tell me the story. Because they'll write down 1 or 2 lines, I saw this, X, Y, Z happen. No, I want details. What did you see? What did you hear? What did you smell? Who did you talk to? What did you, experience? I want what your story is, what your experience was for this particular crime. And you can't always document that in writing on a piece of paper when you experience it, but you can tell me the story. So that comes into play whenever we do go to trial, because we'll call that witness in if we have questions that we want to put into trial for the jurors to see.
I'm actually going to add to that. So witnesses are a big part of trials. Without witnesses, we have what they talk about could be circumstantial. Maybe the officer didn't witness the crime, maybe nobody witnessed the crime, but we have the warrant and charges. So with witnesses, as we all have done, we'll see something, we'll see a traumatic incident, and we're not going to remember all of our details right then and there. So when you get that witness statement, when you start writing down things, you might not remember everything. So that's where we come into play, when we go meet with these witnesses and we talk to them a couple days later, maybe a week later. As time goes on, you start recalling them. You go, okay, you know what, this did happen, I didn't write this down, but I need to explain this. That's a big part of the case, definitely witnesses for sure.
Okay, and then the last question for you guys is, how do office investigators collaborate with prosecutors and law enforcement during this phase to ensure that all procedural and criminal standards are met while preparing the case for trial?
For my unit, major crimes, we handle all homicides. We start the moment the crime happens. Our unit is notified as soon as there is a homicide. It doesn't matter what day, what time, we're notified. And our prosecutors start working with the detectives at that moment. They start explaining what they have on the scene, what evidence they have, these are our theories, this is what's going on. And our prosecutors will tell them, I'm gonna need this, and this, and this to prosecute this at a later date. These are the evidence items that we need for you to start gathering. So they basically work hand in hand with the detective, working through this case from the moment it happens. It's 2 in the morning, we're getting a call at 2:30. After they get there and start figuring out what they have going on, they call out, reach out to us. It's not unusual for me to be asked to go to the scene. I've done that before. My prosecutor reached out today, can you go out and help this agency? Sure. I don't care what time it is, I get dressed and I go. But we start working the moment it happens, and we don't stop until we go to trial. which could be a year or 2 years down the road with homicides, and that's not unusual. We work very, very closely with our detectives in all of our agencies, and it's to the point that one can call me at 10 o'clock at night and say, hey, can you help me with this? Sure, what do you need? We work very, very closely with them so that we don't have issues later on in trial. We know how each other works. So when we need something, or if they need something, we get that on the front end and not try to fix it on the back end.
So coming from the trial line, so I work closely with my ADAs. Like we talked about, I have 2 ADAs on site for one courtroom. I like checklists. Checklists are kind of my thing. So I follow a checklist. What do I need? So I need body camera, I need a report, I need 911 calls, CAD reports, which are what's on the computer, what the officers see when they get dispatched to that call. I also, surveillance video, if there's any witness video, say a witness was standing on video, I'm gonna want that, I'm gonna need that. I also like to get an evidence list. We talked about evidence. So with an evidence list is usually, like, for example, with Cop PD, they submit all their evidence to a specific site that we have access to. I can go on that site, I can look at everything they have. I print that out, I give that to my ADA, so that way they know what they're gonna have. So when it comes to working with prosecutors and law enforcement, I work very closely with our prosecutors and law enforcement. If I have questions, like she said, we'll call up the detective, we'll call up the officer. Hey, where is this? Why do we have this? Or, hey, can you explain this a little bit more? We couldn't do our jobs without collaborating with everybody. And that's like the bread and butter of it all.
A lot of, to carry on what they were saying, some of the evidence that we get or these reports, it may not be complete. Something may not have been submitted to GBI, so we come back and we read through and see what has not been done. If it hasn't been done, we'll reach out to the detective, or we'll do it ourselves and have it sent off to be checked. So we try to address these issues as quickly as possible so that we're not having any concerns later on or any delays, because it does take some time to get a lot of this evidence processed. A lot of the evidence that we may not have, we may have to get a search warrant for, so that's not unusual for us to get search warrants on phone extractions, computers, locations, vehicles. If we see something that's not there and we know our prosecutors are gonna need it, we get it. They don't have to tell us what they need, we already know.
Alright, there are 2 people who haven't been asked any questions yet, so I'm gonna get this up. This question is for Victim Advocates Leslie Herculano and SUVIVORS. So I know that y'all both deal with kind of the early stages of these cases, probable cause and bond hearings sometimes. So how do you guys ensure that victims are fully informed of their rights when doing their jobs, making sure that they understand the process and also feeling supported and safe while they're kind of navigating the proceedings? Who'd like to?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Leslie. I am actually one of the probable cause and bond advocates, so I kind of handle all of the cases except for the homicide, where Cindy comes in and kind of helps me out with them. When I first initially reach out to a victim, it's usually through a phone call. If I don't have a number for a victim, I use law enforcement agencies. I try to reach out to them and see if they have a different alternative number, or if there's an email address, or if there's some type of communication that they're able to provide for me to reach out to the victim in a case and let them know, hey, there is a court proceeding that is happening for the defendant at this date, at this time. I like to emphasize what we call the Victim's Bill of Rights with victims. I actually have it on my desk, and it is something that I provide to my victims after speaking with them. 3 that I like to highlight with them is the right to be present for the court proceedings. The second one being that they have the right to provide their input and opinion in reference to bond or what they want to see on the outcome of the case. And the third one being that they have the right to be notified of any and all court proceedings that the defendant is going to have. If a victim wants to be present for a probable cause and bond hearing, because those are the first kind of initial hearing that happens, it is a little scary. Victims tend not to want to appear for them. I sometimes coordinate with a deputy if the victim wants to come, provide them an escort back to their vehicle. or I get another, investigator to kind of help me out. I sit with the victims, do the hearings, and make sure they are feeling safe, and comfortable with everything that's happening. If they're feeling uncomfortable with anything that's happening in the courtroom, we step out, and I take them to a private room so we can get, our feelings kind of together and just go back into the courtroom if they want to go back. If not, we can wait in the room until they are ready, until it's complete, and I will let them know what happens after if they choose to want to know.
Right, I have one more question. So how do you help collaborate with law enforcement, prosecutors, and other criminal justice professionals to make sure that their voices are heard and also that their safety and well-being is prioritized?
Hello, my name is Cindy. I am the Major Crimes Victim Advocate in the DA's office. This is actually probably the easiest part of my job. I don't have to really try to collaborate with law enforcement or my prosecutors to have my victims' voices heard. It is first and foremost on everyone's mind, the prosecutors, law enforcement. It is important to every single person on my team as far as, being heard and things of that nature. As far as my biggest thing is communication. When it comes to our team, like Brandy pointed out, our prosecutors are on call 24/7. So it is not unheard of that we have gotten texts at 3 a.m. saying a homicide occurred, this detective is the lead. Our procedure in the DA's office is that we reach out to the surviving family within 72 hours. So I go ahead and reach out to them, make sure that they have a line of communication to the team that is prosecuting the case, and to make sure that they just have someone to talk to. At the very beginning of these cases, it seems as though things kind of move very quickly. There's, the no bond hearing, there's, PC bond, there's grand jury, and then it kind of, as far as court proceedings are concerned, it kind of dies down after either grand jury or probable cause hearing. It doesn't mean that the work has stopped, it's just a lot of it is not being done in a courtroom. So that's kind of where I maintain the communication with my victims, so they have someone to speak to whenever if they haven't heard from me in a couple of months. It's not because nothing is going on, it's just there's nothing to report. But they always have a line of communication to ask any questions they need answered. As far as safety is concerned, I'll kind of focus it on the public cause hearing. Judge Murphy is absolutely right. The PC bond hearing is very high emotions. It's the first time that these family members have seen the person that took their loved one's lives. Communication and providing as much information as I possibly can so there are the least amount of surprises during this hearing. I make sure that they know that the defendant is going to be present. That's not common knowledge because, these family members have never even been a part of the criminal justice system at all, and now all of a sudden they're having to deal with this on top of grieving their lost loved one. So I just, tell them as much information as I can possibly give them, so nothing comes to them as a surprise, because it is a very difficult time, that first preliminary hearing.
Thank you very much. So that concludes the questions from us, but y'all have been such a wonderful audience. So if y'all have any questions, I think we have time for a couple. So here we go. Coming on over here.